What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers yesterday handled business against the Charlotte Hornets. Not the prettiest win. I kind of felt like they just took their foot off the gas. They were up by as much as 23. And then, Charlotte threw their punch, as you knew they would. But kind of got a little too close for comfort, especially towards the end of the game. But nonetheless, right, it felt like a game where, for me personally, it never felt like the Lakers were going to lose the game. It just felt like, you got the first game of a back-to-back. Handle business, get this game over by halftime, and then now you can, kind of get the rest you need for the game against the Philadelphia 76ers. Also, Lakers they're not good enough to take their foot off the gas, Like, if this was a team that was top 3 in the West and looked like a bona fide contender and was, clearly one of the best teams in the league and didn't have these inconsistency habits and all that, I'd probably feel a little different. I'd probably be like, it happens. It's a game. Like, no big deal. But given the history this year of the Lakers and given how the Lakers have handled this season, it is a bit of concern for me personally. But nonetheless, like where the game really started to get close was in the second quarter, right? Lakers are up 20 at the end of the first. They're up 39-19, and then they get outscored 32-20 in that second. And JJ Redick was asked about that, and he responded with JJ Redick on the Lakers' poor second quarter. In fairness, we had lineups out there we haven't seen all season, which is correct, right? JJ had lineups out there in different configurations, and people I saw weren't happy about it at the time. What are these lineups? What are this lineup? And JJ's rotation at times has been bad. Like, there have been rotations where you're just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, or it's a little rough. And then in fairness, right? Like, that's what these kind of games against like teams like Charlotte and stuff, like, to me, it's like when he throws out a random, lineup or has like a weirder rotation than normal against one of the top teams, right? Against a team like Charlotte, that's probably the best time to experiment, right? That's probably the best time to get and look at different lineups, because you got to keep in mind, the regular season is about finding those guys, finding those units, finding which configuration of players put you in the best position. And for, also those random off nights, or, let's have this unit out there for like defensive purposes or offensive purposes, or can this guy play alongside these guys, right? Like, because you never know what type, especially come playoff time, what type of configured unit you can throw out there. And then also when you get to playoffs, right, it's a game of chess, right? Like, teams know, okay, well, you have this is the kind of 8 guys that you like to run, this kind of 8 rotation like to run. So teams are preparing, they're working out their defenses, they're doing all the things necessary in order to prepare for what they expect you to do and what they expect you to throw out there. But if you're able to throw a wrench into that at times, you can see that can be the difference. Great example was like that Warriors series, right? When Lonnie Walker had himself a game. Lonnie Walker hadn't played in like months, right? Like, or in like spots here and there, but for the most part was essentially out of the rotation, right? And the Warriors had plans, and, it was looking like one of those games was like, are the Warriors really about to sneak back into this and, make this a series? And then you throw out a guy like a Lonnie Walker who they're not prepared for, and he just goes off, right? Because he's not part of their game plan. He's not part of their defensive schemes. He's not part of those things. So if you can kind of find those little unique lineups, like you'll see randomly at times, like especially when you look at all the different versions and all the various lineups for, a specific team. Right? If you go and like look up the Lakers, different rotations and, 5-man units and stuff, sometimes you'll see these like weird configurations that are like really good. You'll see it and it's like, wow, these 5 guys have like a 32 point differential, right? Like, these guys are like a plus 32 or something like that. Yeah, but it's limited minutes. It's in like, 3 minutes of action or 2 minutes of action or something crazy like that. But again, those kind of things are like the differences between you potentially squeezing out and winning a game in an uninspected manner or not. Right. So I don't mind going through and experimenting a little bit with different lineups. Guys are healthy now. You're trying to find minutes. You're trying to cut guys' minutes down. You have guys like Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith that are on like minute restrictions, and they're trying to keep their minutes low. And, so why not, right? You're playing a team like the Charlotte Hornets. Why not have like a different look as far as like rotations go and things like that? So I'm not against it. But it's also a fine line, right? Like, there's some rotations that you look at and you just go, yeah, I don't know how this can work. And, when it does, you look silly, right? Because it's like, okay, well, we know that this lineup isn't going to work. You decided to throw that out there. It didn't work. And, it's like, what are we doing here? Right? Or, even if you think a lineup is going to work and that goes out there, but it's also, again, like, how long do you play them out there? Do you try it again? Right? Did this lineup not work because they just haven't gotten the reps together? Did this lineup not work because it's just a bad lineup? Is this lineup not work because of the team you played? Maybe they just have the right pieces to kind of counter that type of lineup, and it's just not a good matchup for that lineup. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into this, right? Various versions of different 5-man rotations or 5-man units that you could put out there that could affect and impact the game. But, you have your core guys, and outside of your core guys, you're trying to find, like, what are those other guys? What is that other guy or two that can come in and slot in and, maybe make an impact out there? Plus, these are guys on your roster. These are guys that are on your team, right? These are guys that should be able, on any given night, at any given moment, be able to step in and be an impactful player, right? Like, why are they on your team if you can't actually deploy them in some manner? Now, obviously, the guys and balance and stuff, like, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not as straightforward as you just throw 5 guys out there, but there's guys that are on this team that, it's like, why is JJ running these guys? It's like, well, there's still players on this team, right? Like, they need to figure it out. They need to figure out ways to have impacts. They need to figure out ways to actually, affect the game, especially when it's like main rotation guys, right? Like, if LeBron and AD are on the bench, we should be able to at least stay afloat, right? Like, obviously it depends on the unit that you're going up against and all that stuff. But, again, you're trying to find these little kind of advantage points, these little kind of like, okay, can this work? Can that work? That didn't work. Okay. So, and then you go back, you watch the tape. Okay. Well, why didn't this work? But it's not work because, it's just, these guys just don't fit. These guys just don't make sense. Is it like, no, like, it was just a bad night for these two guys or something, right? Like, let's get another look at it down the stretch. Right? And then, of course, I mean, there's also the overreaction to, you throw out a unit out there and a team goes on a run, and it's just that's the time that they end up going on a run, right? And it's like, we'd love to be able to just play the 5 guys that got the 21-point lead and just play those 5 guys the rest of the game. But you can't, right? It's a 2-game season. And then not counting the playoffs and everything else, right? You need to be able to keep guys fresh and keep legs good and all that. So I don't really blame him. I don't really knock it. Like, there have been, don't get me wrong, some very questionable lineups, some questionable like rotation that he's had out there. But I even talked about it last year with like Darvin Ham and stuff. And I talked about it last year, last offseason, going into the season, as well as in this offseason, going into this season, of having, an experimentation. All teams do it. All teams throw out, you'll see some random guy, you're like, God, I didn't even know this guy was on the team, right? Like, for some random team. And all of a sudden they have like some weird lineup or some weird thing. Because again, you're trying to experiment. You're trying to see and find like those diamond in the rough type units that you can deploy out there. And it's like, wow, I never thought that this one would work, right? You throw out some weird, like, with Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith and Jackson Hayes, and you're like, man, this is going to be a terrible unit. Like defensively, they're probably really good, but offensively, they're strong. And then they like are like a plus like 20-point differential, and you're just like, wow, didn't think that was going to happen, right? Like you only have like two guys that can really score, and it's just like, it that's what you're trying to find. You're trying to find those type of things. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? You think like, yeah, it's fine. Like experiment, playing a team like the Hornets. This is the time to experiment on that. Do you think like, no, you shouldn't be experimenting, period. You know who your like 10 guys are or whatever. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it either way. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.